Welcome to video number 18. Perhaps better should have been called video 17 part 2 or 17A, because it's a direct carry-on from video number 17 where I looked at one lights control and the scripts behind it. Today I want to work a bit more quickly to get through a few more light settings, so there'll be less explanation of the scripts. If you need those explanations, you need to look back at video number 17. But just a quick recap of where we were. We're in the cockpit and it's dusk, so we're going to need some lights, and we've done this one here that controls the backlighting, and what I want to do is to control the standby instruments, what's called the pedestal lighting down the bottom here, and the brightness of the primary flight display, these two displays here. So that's what we want to work on today. So as before, I will have my Stream Deck, the actual Stream Deck, up here so you can see if I press anything with my finger, and I've also got an insert here just so you can see the details, because it's not very clear on the webcam. The lighting doesn't help, and these are backlit, so it confuses the white balance and autofocus. And I've got a folder here for the switches, and what I've done so far is I've created for this control here the ability to increment it by 10% or decrease it by 10%, or if I press on the gauge I can quickly one quick click push it straight up to 100, so everything here is now 100%, or a long click turns it off. So that's what I programmed in. I'm going to do pretty much the same for this one here, the standby instruments. So let's bring up Stream Deck software, and I've really got a bit of work done here, so I might as well reuse these, and so I'm going to copy and paste them. I can copy and paste or use the keyboard shortcuts. Control C, Control V puts it in. So these are duplicates, exact duplicates of the those ones. So I need to do some work on them to actually make them work for the standby instruments. So first thing is let's go in and rename them. So we'll work on this one here. It's not the panel, it's the standby. Perhaps I'm still trying to work out which colour is best, which one shows best, so let's try a different colour and see what it does. So I'm going to try some colour, cyan type colour, and it's actually standing out fairly well for me on my Stream Deck. To my eye, the camera's picking up quite well, so I quite like that light blue. Let's go with that. We'll do the same with this one here, so let's swap into here, and this is going to be my standby, and we'll choose approximately the same colour and see how it works. Okay, so that is the increment button, and what it does, it calls a script. At the moment it's going to call the panel increment, but I want to click a script I'm going to write for standby increment. So I need to use X's and O's, and I need to find out which variables and events we're looking for. So we'll watch for some events. Hope we don't cover those up. And I'm going to turn this and watch what events we get. On the previous one it was changing a potentiometer setting, but this one here actually has a dedicated setting for the panel lights power setting, and it's sending it to circuit number 1, or the number 1 for these. There is only one panel power setting for this aircraft, but I think others will probably have a 2 and a 3, so we're going to send it to number 1. We don't know the values that's being sent yet. That's where we have to look at the variable. I'm going to filter. I think it's going to be power, because that's got power there, so we'll use power here. And power appears in a fair number, but it's probably an electrical one. or a system. Here we are. Light panel power setting, and this one says panel lights power setting. So light panel probably matches up. Okay, we'll go with that, and it's going to come into percent for us. That's quite nice. That's already done. We had to work on that yesterday. Add that, and it says it's at 5%. Let's turn that, and it's working. So it's going up and down. The percentage is going down. So I know what variable I want, and I know what event I want. So I now have to script that in X's and O's. Let's bring that up and bring up our script editor. Now, we worked just on the previous video on the structure for an incrementer, so we can reuse that. So if we bring that up, rename this as the standby incrementer, and we'll save that as new, so that should appear in here, not overwriting our panel incrementer. There it is. So we're definitely working on a new script here. So the structure is set here. This one here looks at the variable, compares it to 90, and if it's less than or equal to 90, it means it's safe to add another 10 to it, and this is where it gets that value from the variable and the number 10 and adds them together. So it's adding 10 to that, and then it writes it to the right potentiometer in that case, but for us it's going to be a power setting. So we need to change these variables and destinations, but the structure's okay. So here we go. That's got to go, and in its place we need to put the variable for the pedestal power. Sorry, the panel power, light panel power setting. Perfect. So that goes in there. The light panel power setting is being read, checked against 90, and if that's okay, we check it again. We need that value again here, so that can go. And we'll take the brackets out while we're about it. That's the curly bracket for the if, so that must stay. And we insert the variable here for the power, apply, system variable, panel power setting, in. So it's checking that, getting 10 and adding it to it, and then this is where it's going to send that value. So that goes from here take the rogue bracket out, and it's a sim event, and we'll look for power again. Panel lights power setting, put that in, so it knows it's going to the number 1 version of that. That's okay. We need to remember that it's got to be told that it's expecting 2 inputs. It's expecting the power and the destination. That's what's going to happen, and we can now update that, and we ought to check that now to make sure that's happening. So if we press on that standby plus, we should see this power setting going up down here. And for some reason it's not, so we've got to go back and check our script. Light panel power setting isn't going up. Because we haven't told it here to look for the new script. So it's the standby script it needs to look at. And we'll check that again. And I can see it's going up here. It's not affecting this gauge yet, because we haven't done any work on that. So let's go and do some work on the gauge. Because it's still looking at the old potentiometer setting, because that was a direct copy of that, so we need to get rid of that and we need to insert a sim event. Panel light setting, and I right click on that because it copies a different version and drops it in there. So panel power lights setting. Oh, it's not an event, it's a variable. Let's undo that again. It's been a long day, I have to tell you. It's been a long day already. Right, let's close that. It's a variable, and it's a system variable, and it is the panel power setting, but the same thing applies. Right hand click, copy it, and that goes in there. So that's going to control the rotation, and we want to control here the text that's on it. So that can go, and we put that in there. So those are done. I'm going to test those for the moment, just make sure they're working. And I've got two other settings down here that I want to come back and change in a minute. So let's submit that. So let's just try incrementing it, and that's going up, and that's okay. And it's changing the text, and it's changing this. So these last two I said that I want to change. These are scripts that allow me to do a short click and put it straight up to 100, or a long click that puts it down to 0. So I'm going to use my text editor, here, and last time I had a temporary one that I can just use as a scratch pad, so we use that. So none of this is relevant, that can all go, and let's create the new one. So this one here is just going to be a sim event, it's going to set my panel lights power setting up to 100, no calculated value, just a straightforward up to 100. Don't forget that there are two variables, and all I'm going to do now is just take that I've built, copy it and paste it into here. So everything here can go, Control Alt Delete, gone, and paste it in. So that's sending 100 to there, and that's okay. And now the short click version of that is exactly the same. So this, everything can go, except it's going to send a 0 rather than 100. Submit and test it. So if I hold that button down, it should set it to 0. And it's not doing it, it's setting it to 1, okay, so why is that not going to 0? Let's check it again, hold it down, long click, and it's worked, okay. Mystery of programming. One click on there, should set it to 100, and it does. A long click sets it to 0, we're working. So it's the last one now, is the standby, and it's the one that decreases the value. So we haven't written the script yet, but we can still type it in while we're here so we don't forget. So that's going to call the standby. Let's go write the standby script. So we already had a decreaser on the panel, and that is the one that we had before. The structure is correct, so we will bring it in, rename it, and save it as a new script. There it is. So we're working on that, and it's as before, it's reading the wrong variable, so we change the variable. So panel power setting in percentage being checked, checking that it's at 10 or above, because if we take 10 away from it when it's below 10, it'll go below 0 and cause all sorts of problems. And if that's okay, then we will check that variable and take 10 away from it. So change the variable again. So we take that one out and put in the correct variable. And that's it being checked. There's the takeaway 3, and we need to write that not to the potentiometer, so that's got to come out. And in fact, it's not going to go to potentiometer 3, it's going to go to a 1, so we'll take that out, and we're going to insert the event. It's an electrical event, panel lights, power setting, going to number 1. Got the green light here, so the structure's okay, but it doesn't check for this bit here, the usual gotcha of there are 2 values being sent to you. So we can update that, and we'll check it in here. So let's increment. Let's go up to 30. Let's try taking it down. We will decrease it. 20, 10, and it doesn't go any further than 10. And there's a reason for that. If we look here, you see it's actually setting it at 9.99999, very close to 10, but it's below 10. And our script tells us specifically on our script it's got to be at 10 or above, or it won't do it. And it's below 10. If it took 10 off it, it will go below 0 and cause a crash. So it's working correctly, but it's not much use to us. But there's a bit more structure. We've got do the test, and if it's true, do this, and there's an else, do something else that we can add on the end of it. So if it's below 10, it won't be very far below 10 because we've been taking it off in chunks of 10. So if it's at 9.9 something, just set it to 0, just get on with it and do it. So we can put that in here as an else command, and it really is typed ELS with no E on the end of it. It's else, and we put those brackets there. And so what I want to do is to do this event, this power event, of setting the panel lights to 0. So no calculating, no messing about, set it to 0, and it's going to have, it's still got 2 values sent to it. It's setting its number 1 panel lights that we're setting, and we're going to send a 0 to it. So that's what to do if it fails the test here. So I'll update that and just demonstrate it working. So we'll do what we did before. We'll push it up 20, 30, that's working there, and now we'll take it down to 20 to 10. It's actually below 10, but this should send it to 0 because it picked up the else part and put it to 0. So that's it, that's job done. The gauge itself is all set, and we've got the variables right, we've got the scripts working. Let's just check it again. There's the 100 and the long click takes it to 0. Yep, so happy with that. Let's move on. We'll copy that when we'll have a look at the pedestal lighting. So let's clear these lists, clear these variables, and work out what's going on the pedestal lighting. So we'll do as before, we'll just turn the knob and watch what's going. And again, it's not a potentiometer. Let's clear that list again. It's got its own distinct variable, and we can check that variable here. So we'll filter for the pedestal variable. Light pedestal power. Interesting misspelling here. Pedestral is what they've written, where it's pedestal. So we've got to be careful with that. So let's put that in, double click that in, add that variable, and it's doing the same thing, this 0.999 business, but we've got the structure for that already built, so we can just copy and paste. So we're really going to copy and paste from this standby into here. Let's see if we can do that. So X's and O's, and here's the scripts we've got. We can write the script straight away. So let's do the decrease one straight away. So I'm going to call this the pedestal decreaser and save that as a new. So we're working on a new script. So it's not light panel power setting, it's the light pedestal power setting, so we can probably get away with just changing light pedestal to light panel to light pedestal. We'll try typing it in to see if we can do it. Pedestal, and again it says panel here. Pedestal. And the event was not panel light power setting, but pedestal light power setting. And on the else version, again, not panel, but pedestal. And we'll update that and go back into the Stream Deck software and copy, paste, and it's not the standby, it's the pedestal. In fact, we can possibly make that text even a little bit bigger for this one, help it stand out. And it's going to call the pedestal decrement. Submit that. So I'm going to watch this power setting here as I press on that. And it went down. And it's gone down to 5. This should make it go to 0, and it does. So hey, that worked. Let's do the same for the increment. We'll copy, paste, rename that script that it's going to be looking for. The script doesn't exist yet, so we can make it. So let's copy the standby. So open that up, save it as rename it pedestal, and save it as a new script. So definitely doing the pedestal increment, so not light panel power setting but light pedestal power setting. Pedestal, just checking the misspelling of the spelling. Pedestal, yep. Pedestal, and send it to the panel pedestal, the pedestal lights. Update. And again, we'll check that, and we'll check it by watching the power setting here. and that's going up quite happily. So that's going well. So we need the gauge now, so we'll copy that and paste that in here, and it should be quite easy to change these. Pedestal. As long as you don't get the spelling messed up. Pedestal. And submit that. Well, something's happened already because it's picked up the value, it's going up, and it should go to 0 quite happily. It does. A short click on there brings it to 100, and the long click brings it to 0. Job done. So there's just one more to do. Right, I had a short pause and edit there because I wanted to set something up to save you watching something boring, which I'll come to in a minute. But last one to look at here is the avionics. So we're going to look at the events that come from there. And if you watch very carefully, at the moment it's sending potentiometer number 12, but as I turn it, you might see that other numbers flick up briefly. There was a 10 that I saw there. I hope that's coming across in the video. And if I turn it down, you may see other numbers appear. Like there seems to be a 4 there. So what I've done is, during the pause, I've set this up so it actually watches all the potentiometers I know of, from 1 to 12, and keep an eye on which ones change. So let's just turn this one here, and I'm spotting 4 avionics one. Potentiometer 4 is moving, and 10, 11 and 12 are moving. So this control is actually controlling 4 potentiometers at the same time. And let's turn it up to 100% and see what's happening. So potentiometer 4, let's get rid of the ones we're not interested in now. So we can remove 1, 2, 3, keep 4, 5 better go, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these are the 4 potentiometers that seem to be controlled by this. And it's quite odd what happens. Potentiometer 4 definitely acts as you'd expect, from 0 to 100. And this one here seems to be light sensitive. It seems to depend on what time of day you're working at as to what percentage that goes to. Sometimes I've tested it and it only goes up to 20%. The key one is 4. That's the one you can control. If you actually try to set the value of 10, 11, 12, you can't control them, but you can control number 4, and it seems to then ride off the back of that. Let's just try an experiment while you're here. Let's set the daytime so it's a bit brighter, and we'll see if that affects anything. So let's turn the avionics up. No, it seems to have keyed it into 43. Honestly, I've tested this a number of times over the various different days and settings, and these are different every time. This one's the key one. It goes from 0 to 100. So we're going to work with that in our script. So the script is very much the same as this one here, because that one also worked on potentiometer settings, not on distinct power settings. So I'm going to use that as my basis, the panels. So let's bring that into play. So I'm going to copy and paste these across. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and it's the Avionics Avio. Same for this one. Avio, and I'll preempt it here. We'll tell it it's going to be looking for a script that we are yet to write called the Avionics increase. So we'll submit that, and we'll do the same for the decrease. We'll preempt it and say we'll write a script for you for Avionics decrease. Okay, so submit that. Let's go and look at the script and do some work on it. So we're going to base it on that panel increment and decrease, so let's bring that into play. It'll be the Avio, save as new, so we now got an Avio increase, and it's like potentiometer 4 that I want to play with. So that should be all I need to do for the Avionics increase. And we'll do the same. We'll use the panel decrease as our basics. Save that as new. Looking at number 4. And sending it to number 4. Update. And let's bring the Stream Deck software to the front. So we haven't done the gauge yet, so we'll just look at these and we'll look at the percentages here and just make sure that they're working. So if we take that 80% down, that's down to 70, down to 60, down to 50, and that's going up. So job done as far as the buttons are concerned. Let's look at the gauge. Light potentiometer 4 is where we're going to get the control. Whoops. 4, that's where we're going to get the control for the rotation, and here is where we're going to get the control for the text that's written on it. That should be a 4, and the scripts for those instant buttons, that should be a 4, and that should be a 4. So we'll submit that, and instantly the gauge has changed, and that's working. And we'll take it up to 100 with a short press, and we'll take it down to 0 with a long press. And wasn't that delightfully easy? It looked like it was going to be horrendously complicated, but it worked out much easier, and it doesn't suffer from that issue of being 9.999%. So we don't have to worry about the else. That just seems to work. Here's an interesting thing though. If I use the standby, can you see on the actual animation here, that one interacts with the on-screen control, and it turns it up and down, and the same with this one here. So the ones that use their own distinct variables rather than the potentiometer actually control the animation as well. But these ones here that use a potentiometer, they work in that they turn the gauge up and down, but they don't control the animation. Same with this one here, the potentiometer does nothing, and I've been trawling around. I thought I got somewhere with it, but not yet. Okay, so that's not happening. So 50% success rate as far as that's concerned. Okay. So let's have a look at the overhead lights. So up here we've got, let's turn the inserts off for a second. We've got two overhead lights, one for the pilot, one for the co-pilot, and let's have a look at the events and the variables involved. So as we turn this one on, you can see that it's actually controlling two things. Cabin lights power setting, it's got its own power setting, and it's controlling potentiometer number 7. And let's clear that list and we'll try the other light. Let's turn this one off. Clear the list and we'll turn this one on. That's also got a cabin lights power setting, and this one's number 2. This one here was number 1, but then it's still using potentiometer number 7. In fact, if we look at the variables for that, let's do a search for the cabin variable, light cabin power setting. There we are. Let's bring that in, and I'm going to copy that because I need to put an index in here. So we'll put index number 1 for the main pilot's lights. So we'll add that, and we'll paste it back in again and index that for number 2. We'll add that, and so we can see that happening. And let's put the potentiometer in as well. And that's potentiometer number 7. So we'll filter for that. Number 7, and we'll have it as a percentage. I will add that in there. So as we turn this one up, we can see power setting number 2 going up, and when we reach full power, the potentiometer is at 50, and if we turn this one up, you can see it's going up. So the potentiometer is cumulative, but in fact we don't need to worry about that. We can control everything just by controlling these power settings here. And as ever, let's have a look at it when it gets down to 10. It's using that 0.999 thing again. So we've got that script pretty well built. We can just use that. So let's bring in the camera and the Stream Deck. There we go. So we can see what we're doing, and we'll bring up the script editor. We can park these out of the way. We don't really need those anymore. We know that we're looking for the cabin lights power setting, and it's one of these. These are the ones that had the else type script. So we will just copy and paste these. So we'll copy that, and I'll paste it up here. Copy that and paste it up. Copy, paste, and then we'll put the other one here. We'll leave a little gap between them. It looks nice like that. So we'll copy, paste, copy, paste, and the last one, copy, paste. So this one here will be cabin light 1, so I'm putting cab 1, and we preempt the script that we're going to make. I'm going to call it cab 1 for the decrease, so we'll submit that. I'll do the same here. We'll call this cab 1 and preempt the script. Cab 1, submit, and this will be number 2. Cab 2, cab 2 there. 2 and cab 2 there. So we are ready for the script. So back into the script editor. So it was the standby that we were going to use our template. So this one here, we'll make that the cab 1 and save that as new. So that should appear there. There it is. And the setting we're looking at is the variable light cabin power setting. So panel gets changed there. Panel gets changed for cabin. And we'll turn the caps lock on, keyboard in capitals. Okay, so cabin. And I've just copied that so I can just paste it in here. So every time I see the word panel, search and replace would be quite nice, wouldn't it, really? Okay, so that's all set properly. There's cabin, light cabin, cabin lights. This one is going to be for number 1, so we'll just check our indexing there. So that's okay, but we need to index this here, won't we? So check where our variable has been indexed. This already is indexed. So that's all okay, and it's going to 1 here, so we can update that. That script is updated. We can take this straight away to be cab 2. Save as new. And it will be about the indexing that's going on here, making sure that we're reading the right variable and sending it to the right place. And that should work for us. So we'll update that. So we've got the 2 scripts for decreasing, and we'll use the standby increase to be our cab 1 template. Save as new. And again, it was change the panel for cabin, and look at the indexing. So this is number 1. Going to 1. That should be okay. Update that, and then we will make it our cab 2 script. Cab 2, save as new, and it's there. So this is about changing the indexing. think I've got everything, so we'll update that. Just want to have one last look at that one there. Yep, that looks fine. Okay, so let's go and look at the gauge. So I'm looking on number 2. So that becomes a cabin, and we need to check how that's indexed. 2. 2. Sending that to number 2 and sending that to number 2, so we can submit that, and this gauge here. Okay, and this one is okay, sending it to number 1. Didn't change that on the other, just realised it didn't change that, I don't think, on the other gauge. So panel goes to cabin, panel goes to cabin, submit that, and just double check this one here. There we go. Cabin. Cabin. Submit. Okay, so we better check these out and make sure they're working. Let's tidy up a little bit. Well then, on this one here, the text isn't correct, so something is wrong with this one here, and there it is. Let's submit that. So increment, decrease, working, set it to 100, but with the 0 and the 100, that works. Long click, yep, that's working. And we'll test this one here now, so we will increase, decrease, long click to 0, short click to 100. So both lights are working fine. In fact, if I take the inserts out, you can actually see the lights changing here. So we'll take that to 0, and we'll take that to 0, and there's the lights working. Okay, that's it. We've now done all the different lights that I can control with knobs, potentiometers, or by direct commands. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I don't know what I'm going to do next, or in fact when I'm going to do the next one, because I've put a fair bit of work in this week, and got a few other commitments coming up. Okay, but keep watching. If you subscribe and get the notifications sorted, you get picture, you get asked that every time. But then if you do want to see when I put something else up, then you'll get a notification for it. Okay, thanks a lot for watching.